Okay, these are three pamphlet type journals that are sort of like a proof of concept to see how different methods worked. So I'm trying the wrap in binding where you can change out the pages to see how durable that is or how applicable that is. So these three are all have the wraparound binding in some way, form, or fashion, and they're all covers that I made in using various techniques and that I'll talk about. Okay, so this one, the bind yarn, I just crocheted some yarn with colors that kind of match the cover. This cover, believe it or not, is made from reclaimed dryer sheets, Mod Podge, sewing, and calligraphy practice paper. This is when I was using, because now I use mostly cardstock for calligraphy practice, unless I'm using a book that has the practice pages in it or whatnot. But I also had a bunch of hanshi paper that I used for calligraphy practice. And if you're not familiar with what hanshi paper is, it's one of the handmade, not really handmade because they have an industrial process for it, but it's one of the native papers to Asia where they use the mulberry leaves or bamboo or some type of fiber, some type of plant fiber. And if you're not familiar with the process for how washi paper is made, hanshi paper is a much, much, much softer and thinner version of washi paper, usually used for practicing Chinese calligraphy, is what the wrappers for all the pages that I use say. And if I remember in this video, I'll grab a pack. I have a bunch of it. I have a pack of it. I'll show you what the cover looks like. So I use the hanshi paper to practice my calligraphy. And usually when I'm practicing my calligraphy, I just write the names of all the different inks and whatnot. So that's why you have the variation in color. And when I show you the inside, you'll see it a little bit better. That's one particular ink that I used that is, I was like, did I stain it? No, it was just that particular ink that I used on that one. So I layered the dryer sheets and the hanshi paper between diluted Mod Podge to make that decoupage, to make like a decoupage. So when it dried, it has a more of a fiber, more of like a single fiber type feel. So this one, it feels like fabric because I think there was only one page of hanshi paper that I used on this one. And the dryer sheets is most of the texture. So then I basically literally just took that once it was dry. I took it to my sewing machine and just sewed circles with this multicolor thread that I had to use up from the sewing kit that I bought for getting this particular thread. What I bound it with is just crocheted cotton yarn, basically. So let's get into, and again, it's bound in with the yarn itself. This one I believe has 100 pages. I think I stopped at 100 pages. One of them is 70 and one of them is 100. I double bound this one, so I think this is the one that's got 100 sheets in it. 200 pages if you use the back of the paper. And so when I wrapped it around, I made this thread extra long so I could wrap it around to do the binding and then use it to do the tie to close the journal as well. So that was one really cool element that I liked how that came out. I punched holes in this and put eyelets to run the thread through because I really didn't I wanted to be very, very careful not to poke through and catch the thread. I was not thinking about how I was going to use this when I was sewing these massively tiny circles. So there was that. Okay, so inside you can see a little bit better where the writing was. And most of my inks are teal, turquoise, aquamarine, blue-green family of colors because that's my favorite, one of my favorite colors. And also the glue has a teal or aquamarine tint to it as well. So that's why it has this color. And the sparkles, it was a glitter glow-in-the-dark glue, I think, that I used for this that I bought ages ago and just am getting around to using little by little. But that's why you see the glitter effect on the inside cover. And it was just happenstance that I sewed it inside out because this was probably intended to be the top when I was putting it together and layering it. But it ended up that I sewed that top on this part. So inside you get glitter and outside you don't. So what I did again is I wrapped this crocheted cord through twice So you have this holding the paper in. And the other thing that's, as I'm exploring these different methods and whatnot, I'm finding pluses and minuses to this. This is too narrow for this to be a very safe and secure type of binding. Another minus is that anytime I open the journal, when I untie these ties to open it, this loosens because it's pulled through basically using the same tie. So that was kind of an attempt to see how that would work. And now I know it's not something I really am going to want to do often. I kept one pocket element in this to make it kind of like a travel journal so that whoever uses it could just put stuff in there. This is a mixture of several different kinds of premium papers. Most of it, I think almost all of it is mulberry paper, though, from different sources, different brands, different companies. Some of it is Ona, O-N-A, which I think is a Japanese company. Some of it is a Korean mulberry paper, which I don't know the name of that particular brand because it's in Korean and I can't read Hangul. But this one has 100 pages, 100 sheets in it, and the pocket element. But you could change it out with whatever you want. Only, I think the whole thing of having these closer together, I thought originally that would help it be more secure, but that is not turning out to be the case, as you can see. So if I was going to do that, you'll see the other one that I did this way, that I only used one layer of binding, and then, oh, no. Okay, I thought one of them had come undone, but there's so much on this one that would be probably impossible. So to tighten it, you basically have to keep it like this. So I don't know. I'm guessing if whoever eventually has this one could decide if they want to actually tie this off and then just tie the string on and secure it some way. If they never plan to actually switch out the paper in this cover, because I think sometimes I have more fun making the covers than I do the actual journals, which is where ones like this come from. And you'll see the other one in a second. So to secure it, I basically just wrap it this way. And whichever, I mean, it's really multi-directional. You just kind of pick which one you want to be the top layer. And then you just tie it. So it's reasonably secure. It's just you have to tighten it every time you write it, every time you use it, basically. And I think I made the cord extra long on purpose, but I think I made it a little too extra long for keeping it tight. So that is the first one in this wrap through series. This one is one I did previously. Now this, again, is the file folders. Like I mentioned before, you can find the how-to videos on how to treat file folders to make them look like leather. And like thousands of videos on YouTube already. So that is what this cover is. One thing that I've discovered from using this particular type of material to make covers is that one single layer is not as sturdy as I would like it to be. So I switched to gluing multiple layers together and then binding them or covering the edges, embossing them or whatnot. This one, I made this several years ago, actually, is embossed. It's red, so I embossed it with hearts. I have a few heart-shaped embossing folders. So what I usually do is I'll put several folders next to each other and run it through the embossing machine. So it looks like it's a continuous pattern, but it's really 4 or 5 different embossing folders that I've just used over and over. So you've got this one, which is like the open, wide hearts. I don't know if you can see that pattern there, but it's like hearts, double hearts with an open inside. This one you have like the actual hearts that are, the whole heart is raised up. And this one you have the hearts, this one, then the hearts are like in a pattern. And this one, the hearts are just kind of random. I don't know if that even comes through on the camera, but that's what you got. So this is, most of the time I crochet the yarn to give it a little bit more heft when I'm using it to bind or using it as a tie. This one, I actually braided the yarn. So I took 3 strands of cotton yarn, braided them together, and came out with this really nice twine variation. But I don't know how that is practically because I'm not sure which is more expensive, the twine that you can buy bound like this in Walmart or the yarn. So if the yarn is more expensive, this is actually a waste of money. But I really like how it came out. This is actually, excuse me, this is actually the plastic ribbon. I'm not really sure what it's called. I know there's a word for it, but I can't remember what it's called. It's the plastic ribbon that comes on packages or whatnot. I just harvested this from things that I got, I think from my, goodness gracious, there's 1,001 sources for this kind of material over the course of my life. And I keep things that I think could be useful at some point in the future. So because this string is so narrow, it's strong, but it's narrow, I actually tied it to this, which I'm using for the binding. So the way, again, this is file folder paper glued together, went around the edges with washi tape that matches the colors, and then sewed around the washi tape to keep it in place instead of gluing it. When I can sew instead of glue, I always prefer that mechanical binding instead of the glue because the adhesives are just not trustworthy. So then I braided this, I'm not going to untie it because it would unbind the book. I braided this together. It's just 3 different strands of this decorative ribbon from presents or gifts or whatnot, and then tied it here where you could actually swap out what you have this tie with if you wanted to, if this became useless after time or wear and tear and whatnot, but you don't need to. And that's what it looks like on the inside. And this in this one, I did not separate the 8.5 by 11 legal paper from the A4 paper. I just put them all together. And I think I only have 60 sheets or 50 sheets in this. I'm not sure how I did it, but well, I mean, this is the inside of the cover. I really like how this came out. And basically what I would do is have different colors of file folders and I'd stack them on top of each other and then put the glycerin and water on them so that the colors would bleed on purpose. The first time it happened, it was completely random. I did not expect the colors to bleed, but I got these fabulous effects, and I have not been able to match these effects since trying to do it on purpose since I made a second batch of file folder leather. I'm going to try to put a writing board in all of the journals I make. And this one is really cool because, again, it's made from my practice calligraphy paper on one side, but when I use regular paper to practice calligraphy, I do not use the other side. So you've got a decorative side where you can just use as a hard surface to write on, and then you've got a side with lines that are visible that you can use as a guide for writing. Now, I also did this one intentionally with the graph paper. So technically, if you are on a table and don't need this as a writing surface, you can just use it to keep the stuff from bleeding through. But if you want to keep it from bleeding through this way, because I use a lot of fountain pen inks and they bleed through pages and pages of paper if I don't use a writing board. So you actually have this as, you can actually use the graph paper as a guide for your writing if you wanted to. So I think I did that on purpose when I bound this one because the graph paper is every other page. And in between is the premium mulberry papers that I was describing from this one because I have, I went crazy on Prime Day about 3 or 4 years ago, and I am still going through the stash of stuff that I accumulated during that time frame. I mean, I went literally crazy on Prime Day. Okay, so this is tied to this. This is wrapped around here. I don't like how this kind of impinges on the paper. So it may be just that I would need a larger cover, like maybe a centimeter on either side to protect the edges of the paper. But I mean, you can take paper out, put paper in, and redo it as many times as the cover will live. I really like how this cover came out. It's just maybe I should have cut an edge or so off the paper. And you can really see the leather effect on this one. It came out very, very well. Since the thread is super long, my intent was to cover both sides. So if you have stuff in here, you can keep it from falling out by securing it both directions, but not too tight because this is a soft cover. Let me see if I can do this without putting my head in the camera. Okay, cool. So there you go. Another wraparound. And I probably could have put a lot more pages in this one, but it was more of a, I did this one first. So this was my first proof of concept. And I decided not to punch the holes through. And I think I like that better. So if I'm using a sturdier material as the cover, I think I'd rather wrap around the whole thing instead of punching holes through like I did for these other two. So this one, I did not make the crocheted, and it's the same yarn. Basically, it's multicolor yarn that I use for this one as I used for the first one that I showed. This is another set of ribbons that were braided from birthday balloons. I remember that one because the blue in here actually says happy birthday, and I couldn't use that for anything, so I braided it so you couldn't see what it says. This is another cover I made from layering dryer sheets, used dryer sheets, and Hanshi paper, calligraphy practice Hanshi paper. So I made this tie. It's not secured or anything. So, and it's not long enough to do a bow. I tried. So it just comes off, and then you just have to keep track of it. So I didn't, because I chose not to attach it, since this is something that you could rebind. I did the same thing with the binding. Is made the eyelets, put eyelets on either end to run the string through, so it doesn't damage these edges, because these edges are where the paper is weakest, because I didn't put as much glue on the edges when I was making this. I was doing this, making these as like kind of like a proof of concept to see what I could do or what I could achieve with layering the Mod Podge and the Hanshi paper and the dryer sheets, and what kind of texture I would get. I like the texture that I got. And this one I actually remembered to sew the right side up, because that's why you see the glitter on the outside and not on the inside. So there's that. Okay. What else did I want to say about this? Okay, so yeah, sewed around it. Did not go bananas with the sewing like I did for the other one, but I did do extra stitching on where I figured the spine would be in case I decided to use this as a cover. That way the thread becomes a little bit more reinforcing than just the paper and the dryer sheets, because structurally by themselves they're not very sturdy. As you know, if you've ever tried to tear a dryer sheet in half, it comes apart very, very easily. So on the inside, you see more of the patterns that I used on the calligraphy practice page. There's a series of inks by Sailor, Urameku inks. Urameku. I think it's got something to do with the heart or the sky or storms. But the series is really different takes on shades of gray, where it has a gray with an overtone of green, gray with an overtone of purple, gray with an overtone of brown or pink. I think are the three colors that I use for this. But they're chromatic inks, meaning when you stick them on a napkin or something that spreads the ink, causes the ink to spread, the colors change depending on how far from the center it gets. So I was taking advantage of this effect, and actually didn't use this for calligraphy practice now that I look at it. I deliberately did weird patterns with the ink and tried to make it spread and get the chromatic effect on purpose. And it didn't come out as like I thought it would. I did not realize how much the ink would spread as I put the Mod Podge on it. When it got wet, it just went everywhere. So you can't really tell what was written, or the pattern, and the color and texture of the ink does not show through this. But that's okay. It still came out pretty nice, I think. So this is what the inside looks like. The cover, the same writing board as in all the others, which is calligraphy practice paper. A pocket element that I took out of one of the 365 Days of Prayer that I disassembled, and the same A4 mulberry paper. You've got actually some of this is Yamamoto paper, or Yamato paper. These really light ones are Yamato Champion copy paper and Yamato typewriter paper. These brownish ones are Ona. These are Ona as well, and some of it is the Korean mulberry paper that I don't know the name of. But yeah, so different premium papers bound up in this one, and I think, as I said before, this one has 100 sheets, because I'm pretty sure this is 50 sheets that I folded together to make 100 sheets, and with the pocket element. So that is this one. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to comment on for this one. I really wanted to use up these because I knew that they were too short for most of the books that I make, since I prefer not to have to cut the paper when I'm putting a book together. So it's really short, but it's effective. So and I'm trying to get rid of it. So, since I'll be most likely giving this to someone anyway, it's not like anybody would have to pay for poor quality. Because like I said, in all of these videos, this is a journey. I'm learning on how to refine my skills and what works best, and I have not committed to monetizing this process because I just enjoy doing it. So that is these three wraparound binding pamphlet style journals.